You are listening, or if you're on YouTube, you are viewing the Church Answers podcast. My name is Thom Rayner. Jess Rayner, I would say he's on vacation, but his internet just broke down, so I guess he's on unintended vacation. We're always grateful to Cheney and Associates for being our sponsor. They are the accounting firm for the church. They have been our sponsor for many years, and even though they're in California, they're in the cloud. And if you know what that means, they can serve you and minister to you wherever you are. Stop doing the work of bookkeeping and accounting and do the work of ministry. Let them take care of that for you. We have an incredible opportunity to hear from someone whose ministry and whose work is doing a job that is, in my opinion, I'll call it humble opinion, but I just say in my opinion, is one of the outstanding ministries in the world today, and that's Upward. And we are so delighted to have Kevin Drake with us, the executive director. Kevin, thank you for being with us, and thank you for being on this podcast.
Well, Thom, thank you. It's a privilege and a joy to be with you today.
We got a lot to cover, so if you're ready, we're going to go right into it.
Sure, I'm ready when you are.
Tell us something about yourself. Tell us about your family. Tell us about how you got connected with Upward. I want to hear about your background.
Well, just briefly, I'm married to my wife, Deborah. We've celebrated our 33rd anniversary last month. We have 4 children. One's adopted, and so we fostered for many years and lived in multiple places. I spent the vast majority of my career with the New York Times Company, so I came up through media, mostly through sales and marketing, and then on to publish regional newspapers for the Times Company before a couple of stints through that in private equity and then with Gannett before coming over to Upward. Next month will be 5 years. And so it's been a real blessing. It started right at the beginning of the pandemic, and so that was interesting for the first 8 months.
Wow.
Working remotely, but God's been faithful, and He is blessing Upward Ministries, and we are very grateful.
Let's see. New York Times, Gannett, for the uninitiated, that includes USA Today, not limited to it, but Gannett, and then Upward. I'm not going to say that's a leap, but I would not have put that as your path if somebody asked me to guess.
Well, neither would I, actually. And so, sometimes God works in those ways, and we don't see that in the moment. So Bill Palmer was the executive director at Upward after Kaz, who's our founder, left Upward around 2017 or 2018. And Bill and Susan were actually in my small group at church, and love Bill and Susan.
Where was this? What
church at the Mill in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
All right.
And so Bill came up to me and he said, "Man, I need you to pray. Susan and I are going to move back to Birmingham, and I'm going to retire from Upward. I'm just not God's man for the next phase of Upward. And so will you pray for me and pray for Upward?" And I said, "Sure, I will." And about Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, God just would not quit impressing upon me to talk to Bill. And so I called him up. And 2 months later, I was actually asked to be the executive director of Upward Sports.
That is an incredible path. Incredible path. For the uninitiated, and we're trying to make this not the case where we want every church to know about Upward, we want every church leader to know about Upward, but for the uninitiated, introduce them to Upward.
Yeah, so Upward was founded 30 years ago this September, and in our simplest form, what we do is we provide turnkey sports experiences for churches to use sports as an avenue to reach people with the gospel. Upward's mission is to promote the discovery of Christ through sports, and we believe that sports is a great way to not replace the gospel, but to use as a tool to get people to the gospel. And so we want to see as many people across the country and the world saved as possible. That's our job as Christians, and we use sports to do that.
So, Kevin, I've told you before we started recording, and even after we started recording, I'm somewhat of a research nerd and been doing church research for a while. And I started hearing Upward more and more, particularly in the area of conversion growth or evangelistic growth, and churches reaching the community as well. So what's going on? I mean, Upward's not new, 3 decades old, but what is going on? Why is Upward so effective in a ministry where they can reach people in the community? What's taking place?
Yeah, so I think there's a bit of a renaissance in sports ministry, and we're certainly seeing that as an opportunity. So you have a lot of pastors, church leaders, lay leaders that listen to your podcast, and all of them are thinking about, how do I reach my community for Christ? How do I, if I'm a pastor, how do I grow my church? And we have found, I firmly believe that sports is the best avenue to bring people to an opportunity for you to develop a relationship with them and then present Christ to them, and ultimately to see them discipled and grow in Christ. And so, Upward is I think, at the tip of the spear when it comes to promoting and enhancing sports experiences to help people, help churches to see people come to Christ. And so, God's had His hand on our ministry. We're seeing tremendous growth. We're adding about 500 churches every couple of years, and
That's
so
amazing.
yeah,
That's,
so it's been really phenomenal to see, to onboard that many new churches, and we're seeing churches who used to do sports or used to do Upward years ago who are coming back to sports ministry, because it's getting harder to reach people with the gospel. It's getting harder to have people to come to church regularly on a Sunday unless you compel them. And so I tell pastors, you're never going to have more lost people on your campus on Sunday than you are at a basketball game on Saturday.
that
And
is so true.
so we just use that as a great tool to see people come to Jesus.
I love what is happening in reaching the community. The two questions that we get most often from church leaders, particularly pastors, in the terms of, this is my greatest felt need. One, and these are tied, so I'm not going to say one and two, but one of them
Mm-hmm.
is how do we get younger?
Mm-hmm.
Our median age is 62 years old. What are we going to do? And how do we do that? And then the second one is, how do we reach the community? And basically, since I've become more acquainted with Upward, I've just said upward, and just go in both directions, because I know Upward is not limited to young adults or kids. I mean, it's all across the age spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, you're going to reach a lot of ages, and you're going to reach your community. I don't know if that's a question, but I want you to hear that and maybe respond to that reality of what we're seeing is the greatest felt needs.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I hear that from pastors. We have churches across America that call us, and we hear that same thing many times a year. And so, here's something for a pastor or a leader in a church to consider. Our average basketball league across America is 160 kids. Now, not every league, as I said, that's an average. No matter where you're at in America, whether if you're in the Pacific Northwest or the Southeast, it doesn't matter. About half of the kids who come to your church or to a place that you utilize for sports, about half of them are not affiliated with your church.
Mm,
And so many of those are unchurched, meaning many of those are lost. And
hmm
so if half of that 160 coming represent 80 families, those are 80 families. What better way is there to present the gospel to people than to have 80 families who come to your campus 8 times for 8 basketball games, and they come 8 times for practices or whatever sport you're playing, whatever season length there is, and they invite you to be a part of their lives. And
mm.
so that opportunity is what churches are seeing, and it's been very effective, and it continues to be very effective.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Give us some of the portfolio of sports, the classics, the ones that you've had for a while, and then some that are coming on you. I've heard about some of them, but I may not know all of them.
Yeah, I told a church down in Georgia a couple of months ago. We were talking about different sports, and a pastor said, what are you guys looking to do to add more sports? And I told him we would add a burlap sack race if we can tell people about Jesus. We don't care. And so right now we have what I call our legacy sports, which are soccer and flag football and basketball. And our flag football for the spring is up 21% over last year. And so
Wow.
pretty phenomenal. Basketball, not as much, but we're seeing some sports really take off. And so those are our three legacy sports. We also have baseball and t-ball and softball and volleyball, and I'm probably missing some. And we just launched pickleball, available 4-1, and so it's gone crazy already. So as you can imagine, as the fastest growing sport in America. And about a year and a half ago, Tom, God was just, I think, really speaking to me about expanding upwards influence and reach for his glory. And I began to think about adult programming. And so I Googled running clubs, Christian running clubs, and saw this thing that popped up. It said Run for God Ministries out of Dalton, Georgia. So I called Mitchell, who's the founder, and I said, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I called you because I believe God's impressing me to find a partner who can help us to launch a running program. And he said, we've been waiting for about 2 years for you to call. My wife told me that you were going to call a couple of years
Oh
ago.
my goodness.
And so we started running upward running out of that. We hired their team, and we just finished building an app. Actually, we're finishing building an app, and so we'll be launching that nationwide. We've done a soft launch, but we'll be launching that nationwide here in the next month. And so we're for our first foray into adult programming. But again, it's all about the gospel.
Is that 5K that you're starting with, or are you doing
So,
multiple?
we view, that's a great question, Tom. We just like with any sport, we view every church as unique and different, and we develop customized solutions for every church based on what their needs are. And we're doing the same thing with running programs. And so we have a couch to 5K program, we have a couch to 10K, and we'll have a couch to marathon. And so whether
All
you're
right, all right. Explain that term. I
yeah,
know you obviously use it a lot. What's the couch two part?
Yeah, so if you're sitting on the couch and you're not moving and you
Yes.
want to be healthier and you love the Lord or you're interested in knowing more about a relationship with God, the Couch to 5K program is for you. So it'll literally take you from the couch through a 10-week journey to learn how to become a runner or a walker if you prefer, but to get more healthy and then more importantly, to grow in your relationship with Christ.
I got to tell you this story. So, uh, three sons. You met Jess, who now is having internet trouble. So Jess is off this program for right now, and my middle son, who's in the Raleigh area, Colin said, "Dad, I want you to run a 5K with me." I said, "I don't know how to run." No, no. Can I stay on the couch? Basically, is what I said. He said, "No, this is a community when you can do it. We can go whatever speed you want. Walk." I said, "Okay." Maybe. He said, "Well, your three grandsons want you to." I said, "I'll be there."
I'm done.
So
I'm done. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
done.
done.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what happened, Kevin. I did my best, and however good that was, it doesn't really matter. But my youngest grandson, who was probably about 7 or 8 at the time, ran backwards in front of me.
And beat you and beat you.
And oh
Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah,
He said, "Can't you move faster?" They tried to call me granddad. It ended up being Rad. So they said, "Can't you move faster, Rad?" I said, "I'm gonna run over if you don't get out of the way, kid."
that's right. That's right. So the question is, did you finish? As long as you finished.
I did finish, and I didn't finish at the back of the pack, somewhere around the middle. So
Yeah,
no
yeah.
records broken, but I did get it done.
Well, so we have some marathoners who are part of Upward Sports, as you can imagine, and our national run coach Dean Thompson with Upward Running is probably the fastest human being alive over 60, and so
Wow.
he just finished some long endurance race a couple of months ago where he ran 71 or 81 miles or something like that, and so we'll meet you wherever you're at. If you're on the couch or if you're an ultra marathoner, we have a program for everyone. So that's the cool part about being a part of Upward Running. If you're a church, is that you can reach everyone regardless of where they're at.
I want to get back to a point that you raised just a minute ago. You were talking about churches calling you and saying, "Okay, we want to reach the community, or we want to get younger, whatever the case may be." Just give me just some of the stories. Just tell me. You don't have to name a church, but just
Hmm.
just tell me some of these contacts and maybe what has evolved with
Yeah.
one or two churches.
Yeah, so I won't name this church, but I'll give you one example. A church called us a couple of years ago down in central Alabama. Essentially, it's the story, Tom, that you've heard over and over. Our church is over 65. We don't have any young people. We're not attracting young people. We don't really have a youth program, much less something we would call next gen. And so they weren't saying that, but that's what they were really meaning.
Hmm.
And they asked us to help. And they had hired someone who was going to come in and run Upward Sports. That church is running about 35 people on Sunday morning. Their first basketball season with Upward, they had over 100 kids to come to that church.
That had to blow them away.
Yeah. So there's one statistic that says, and you're a numbers guy, you probably know a lot more about this than I do, but there's about 60,000 gyms across America that are empty all week. And I think it was one of your books that I read where about 90% of church space is unused during the week. And so this opportunity to grow your church through sports is right there. And some of our largest churches in America don't have facilities. They rent facilities.
Yeah,
they
that's
get
true.
permission. And so there's no barrier to doing sports ministry. All you really have to do is just love people and love Christ, and you can run a sports ministry because we can help you.
And that's what I want. That's what I want the listeners and the viewers to hear and see. There is no reason why any church needs to say no to sports ministries. I mean, if you have a parking lot, if you have a field you can borrow, anything, you can do a sports ministry. And
Yeah.
that's why I want them to make an appointment with Upward and talk to y'all and find out what's going on. I can't recall being as excited about a ministry that is reaching the community as I am these days about Upward. And I have a feeling, Kevin, that I probably missed out on a whole lot when I wasn't following y'all as closely as I am now, but I am grateful for the days that I'm doing so at this point. So thank you for that. Hey, before we go any further, I want to hear your faith story. Just tell us about how you became a follower of Christ and who influenced you.
Yeah, so this is an example of when that kids that need to be reached, and so the kids that will come into a gym or onto a field who don't have anything to offer that you can love on and introduce to Christ will be so beneficial. And you never know when you might have the next Thom Rainier, who's a 5-year-old that comes to your church. And so when my sister and I, my family grew up very poor. We grew up in a mobile home park in rural South Carolina and outside of Spartanburg County. We had 2 men to come to our mobile home and knock on our door. One was a disabled veteran from World War II who had been damaged his hand had been mangled in a torpedo attack, a Japanese torpedo attack. And the other one was the pastor of a church. They knocked on our door knowing that we had nothing to offer them. But they asked us if we would come to church. My mom and dad were not believers. They wouldn't come, but they allowed us to ride a church bus, an old church bus. And those 2 men taught me how to love people. They introduced my sister and I to Christ. And
Wow.
Because of that, today, my entire family are believers because 2 men loved Jesus and came into a mobile home park that had nothing to offer. But they introduced us to Christ, and I'm forever grateful for that. And so it's been an incredible journey. I look back on God's goodness, and
I love that story.
I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed that He chooses us to be a part of the work that He wants to do.
Well, your folks had asked us to not forget to mention pickleball, and you have done that thus far. And I want to make sure that all of our audience understands that that's really a fast-growing area to reach people. Fairly easy to carry out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we actually need churches to sign up because we have an internal contest that Jennifer McCraw, our marketing director, came out with. I know
Jennifer.
One of our guys loves cheesecake. And so she said if we get 50 churches to do pickleball in the first 30 days or whatever it is, that she'll buy cheesecake, or actually probably I'll buy cheesecake for all of the Upward team. And so we need churches to sign up for pickleball just so we can get cheesecake. But we are offering, or I should say, she's offering free nets, I think, or something like that. And
that's what we've been mentioning to some of our churches.
That's good. And so I think the first few days we've had a bunch of churches to sign up. I don't know where we're at. So
we're going to help you get over 50.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We want to do that.
That would be awesome. But Thom, I would be remiss if I didn't say to churches, we're rooting for you. Pastor, we are cheering for you. If we have something that can help you to grow your church and see people come to Christ, call us. We want to support you. That's what God has called us to do.
I absolutely love it. And Kevin, I was led to Christ by my high school football coach. So I know the story. He called me into his office, and I had just transitioned to a running back, and I was trying to learn plays, and I was insecure. And I didn't know what he was going to tell me. And he just looked at me and he said, Rainer, you're missing something. And I
Mm,
thought I'd missed a hole or a block. He said, you're missing Jesus in your life. And he
mm.
just laid it out there. And you know what? We were disconnected. We didn't see each other from the 1970s to like 2015, 2017. And I found him. And
Wow.
I was CEO of Lifeway at the time, and I brought him to Lifeway in front of the whole chapel, and they gave him a standing ovation. I mean, it was just great. The influence that someone can have in sports on
Yes.
someone who is not a follower of Christ.
Yeah. Some of the best stories that I hear nationally are not about the sports experience. They're where a pastor gets a call and says, Pastor, I'm in trouble. My marriage is breaking up, or a loved one is really sick, and I don't have a church, but my kid played upward at your church. And so you're my pastor.
Wow.
And these opportunities, we have churches. I had a friend in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, to call me, and he said, "Man, I just wanted you to know I've done 3 funerals in the last 12 months from families that played upward that are unchurched, but it gave me an opportunity to share Jesus to their family because of the experience that one of their children had at upward." And so I just love hearing those God stories because ultimately it's about Him.
It
It's
is.
not about us. And I would also add too, just as an aside, pastors, I think not church answers, but the glue folks
Yeah.
put out some statistics recently that said that only 9% of pastors felt like their congregation was engaged in lay work, something that affects. What better way to get your congregation engaged than to do a sports ministry, because it's volunteer driven. And so it's just a great opportunity for you to engage the community and to engage your congregation.
I absolutely love it, and I'm going to continue to be. We interviewed one of the pastors who's a part of the Upward Ministries, and he said he was an ambassador for Upward. Y'all haven't named me an ambassador, but I am an ambassador
I
for
love
Upward.
it. I love it.
I'm,
Well, I am decreeing today that you are officially an
I
upward
have been
ambassador.
the executive director of Upward has therefore decreed,
You
and I
will
accept it.
you will get a T-shirt very soon. You will get a
Oh man,
T-shirt.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Anything you want to add before we close this podcast? And it's just been a joy to listen to you, Kevin.
Just to say thank you to our partners. We have partners all across America that are already doing upward. And I was at the Reach gathering, which is I think the premier gathering of sports ministers across America. And there was godly pride for me, Lower G, to really see about 45 or 50 of those 200 participants that are already partnering with Upward. And so I just want to say thank you. If you're listening to this podcast and you're an Upward partner, I may not interact with you all the time, but I want to say thank you. We're grateful that you allow us to be a part of what God's doing in your community across America. And if you're not a partner of Upward, we would love to talk with you. Anything we can do to help you, we want to.
And we've got a link in the show notes, and you can just go right there and click on it, or you can just Google Upward and find them and set up an appointment with them. And they're just more than happy to have a talk. What have you got there, Kevin?
I don't know if you've released this or not. I might be spilling some beans here, but I want to say, like, I love your books, and you're talking about Upward, but I want to say that we're grateful for you. I took my team through one of your books, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
just want to say that you are personally making a difference with the work that God's called you to do, and so
Thank you.
thank you for that, and for you and your family.
You're kind. Thank you very much. This has been a joy. It is. I love what Upward is doing, and I'm going to just see what God is going to do, and it's going to be even more. We don't know how big His work is going to be because it's such a great work that is going on. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being with us.
Thank you, Tom. Have a great day.
Well, before we go, we want to thank our sponsor, and that is Cheney and Associates. They're the accounting firm for the church. We love our partner there. We've got Kevin. I guess you still live in South Carolina.
I do. I do live in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then we got Steve Cheney in California, so we love them on the East Coast and we love them on the West Coast. And Cheney and Associates, accounting firm for the church, look them up. Let them do the bookkeeping for you while you do the ministry. And Kevin Drake, just thank you so much for what you do. Look forward to working with you in the future, and have been a joy to work with your organization to this point. So thank you so much. Thanks to all of you as well. We'll see you in the next podcast.